Hi, gang. Bob Boving here for the Mystery Project and Clean Sweep, our Nova Scotia series about Bonnie and Ben Marsden, starring Deborah Allen and Richard Donath. Written by Elf Silver, Deer in the Headlights.
Ray, did you fall asleep in front of the TV again? Ray, if you got up early, why didn't you get the kids up for school? Ray? Geez, did you leave the perk on all night? You could have burned the house. Ray! Oh, Jesus! Oh, God, no! Ray!
Hello?
Mrs. Marsden, it's Corporal Kowalchuk. I have a little bit of work for you and your husband if you care to take it on.
You bet.
Don't speak too soon. You heard that Ray Fletcher died last night?
They said on the radio foul play suspected.
Shot through the eye with a dum-dum 22. I don't think murder would be jumping to conclusions. We've finished thoroughly investigating the scene. We take it kind of seriously when a law enforcement officer is murdered. But the widow is reluctant to come back into the house with her husband's blood all over the kitchen.
I don't blame her.
So, the force is willing to pay a professional cleaner who can do the job within the next few hours. Are you interested?
Someone has to do it.
Also, the screen window the bullet came through has been taken out as evidence. It's an old farmhouse, so the replacement has to be custom built. I think your husband can do that kind of work?
Ben can do anything somebody will pay him for.
I've heard that. I'm calling from the Fletchers. If you and Ben can get up here soon, I'll wait to let you into the house.
It'll take me 6 minutes. See you then. Corporal, thanks for thinking of us.
No, thank you. You might not thank me when you get up here. Bye now.
Oh, I don't know, Bonnie. It's a few hours' wages, but it feels kind of,
I know, getting paid to help out Ellie Fletcher after her husband's been killed. But it isn't her who's paying us, it's the RCMP.
Yeah, well, that's kind of nice for once, giving the Mounties a ticket.
Who'd want to kill Ray Fletcher?
Oh, a lot of people say they would. People who'd been fishing the same salmon hole as their grandfathers or hunting the same stretch of woods don't appreciate some game warden tell them they can't do that anymore. I remember one night at the fire hall, a bunch of the guys were getting all head up about sneaking up here to Ray Fletcher's house and turning his truck upside down.
And?
Oh, Lachlan called from the Black Briar to say his boss was going to let him sell 2 beers for 1 at last call. So we scooted down there instead.
Something of a mess. Dead men still bleed, and he lay here all night long. I hope you brought some disinfectant.
Any decent detergent these days has disinfectant.
Oh.
He was on the floor here all night?
Didn't find it uncomfortable. The preliminary coroner's report puts the time of death at somewhere between 11 p.m. and midnight. He was dead before he hit the floor. Of course, I'm asking for your discretion here.
Sure.
No one heard anything?
Wouldn't have been much to hear. 1 shot from a 22 doesn't make much noise. But if you use a soft-nosed bullet and notch it to mushroom on impact, it makes a hell of a hole.
You'd think someone would have heard him fall.
Everyone else in the house was sound asleep upstairs, and as Mrs. Fletcher puts it, she sleeps like a tractor. It's just fortunate she woke up before any of the kids.
So, we're talking about the screen window over the sink?
That's right. He was bending over the sink to peer out.
32 by...
Whoever did it was a hell of a shot.
Why do you say that?
Because Ray Fletcher knew he had a dangerous job. Enforcing game laws stands you a much better chance of getting killed than raiding crack houses.
I wouldn't have thought that.
Sounds like nice, clean, open-air work, doesn't it? But the people you're arresting are all carrying guns and liable to be half drunk. And the really dangerous ones are doing it for a living. You'd be surprised how much Membertou County venison finds its way into pork sausages in Halifax restaurants.
Really?
And there are still a few bears around here. A gallbladder and paws can certainly help to pay down your mortgage. But I expect your husband would hear more about neighborhood poachers than I would.
No, I wouldn't. Maybe I heard of 1 or 2 guys maybe jack the deer to feed their families and put some meat in the freezer. But anyone doing it as a business wouldn't talk about it around me.
But why do you say the murderer had to be a good shot?
Not good. Phenomenal. Look out the window. From here to the edge of the bush, across the back lawn and the vegetable garden, is at least 50 meters.
How much is that in yards?
More. Look. Ray knew there were people who don't like conservation officers, so he installed motion-sensitive yard lights all the way back to the woods. Either it was a very long shot from back inside the woods, and no hedging bets with aiming for body mass, straight to the head, or the killer had stepped into the yard, the lights came on, Ray looked out, and the killer snapped off a shot before Ray could duck. And whoever it was cocky enough to use a .22 instead of a heavier rifle that would make more noise. Know anyone that can shoot like that?
Not anyone who would widow Ellie Fletcher and orphan her children.
You never know what anyone would do until they've done it. Well, Ellie Fletcher's staying at her mother's. I wrote down the number to call her when you're done. I'm afraid it'll take a while to move the invoice through the bureaucracy, but you will get paid.
Oh, that's all right. We know where you live. Take care.
Oh, hell.
What's wrong? Bonnie?
Oh, just... it's these little flecks mixed in with the blood. Pieces of Ray's brain. I think I'll sit down for a minute before...
I could fix you a cup of tea or some coffee. Sure, they wouldn't mind. It wouldn't take but a minute. Huh? No, I don't think so.
Why not?
Look in the perk. Looks like tar.
Like it was sitting on the burner all night.
Uh-huh.
Now, why would anyone put on a fresh pot of coffee at midnight on a weeknight? Unless he was expecting company.
I guess you'd have to ask Ray. I could stick around and give you a hand with the...
No, you go on home and do what you have to do. I'll give you a call when I'm done.
I'll be there. Kowalchuk was sure being talkative for a Mountie.
Ellie?
Hello?
I thought I'd wait so there'd be someone here. I made some tea. Hope that's all right.
No, I mean, yeah, it's all right, but no, thank you. I won't be here long. Just came to pick up some things for the kids.
Oh. Well, I'll just rinse these out then and call Ben to pick me up. I scrubbed out the coffee pot, too. Looked like it'd been sitting on the stove all night. Was Ray expecting somebody to come by last night?
I don't know. He always stayed up later than me. Someone phoned after supper. Ray didn't tell me everything about his job. I guess he didn't want to worry me.
Did he say who'd phoned?
I don't know. All I know is someone killed my husband in my kitchen. Isn't that enough?
I'm sorry.
Yes, Mrs. Marsden, we actually noticed the coffee pot.
Oh.
For a change, we're way ahead of you. Mrs. Marsden. Bonnie. I wasn't entirely honest with you this morning.
You weren't?
We did need someone to clean up the site, but you also have a habit of noticing little things around the community. I thought if you knew as much as we did, you might... I shouldn't have done it. My only excuse is that someone killed a law enforcement officer in my territory, and I'm a little perturbed.
Well, I don't much like the idea of somebody around here being a murderer either.
But I no longer believe it was somebody from around here. That's why I want to make it very clear to you that any lead that was local and immediate has turned out to be a dead end.
But the coffee and the phone call...
The last incoming call on Ray Fletcher's line was from a payphone on the highway, so that's a dead end. Then we thought there might be a clue to a visitor in Ray's notebook. There was a strange entry 2 nights ago. Just McGuigan's Logging Road, Ferguson Shane O. Jack. Ferguson Shane O sounds like the O'Neill twins, wouldn't you say?
Moira's boys?
I'd hardly call them boys anymore.
Moira does.
Jack might be a third party, or it might mean jacking deer. But if Ray did catch them, he hadn't yet laid charges. Makes you wonder where the O'Neills were. Around midnight last night, doesn't it?
It does.
They were drinking heavily in the Black Briar till past closing time, so that's a definite dead end. The more I look at it, the more obvious it becomes that it had to be a target-shooting rifle in the hands of a professional.
Professional?
Experts who kill people for money don't only exist in movies. The trade in animal parts can be as profitable as narcotics. It looks like Ray Fletcher was onto something a lot bigger than Membertou County. If you start asking too many questions, whoever sent the sharpshooter after Ray Fletcher can send him after you. Understood?
Understood.
Good. Leave it to us this time. We get to wear Kevlar vests.
That wouldn't have helped Ray Fletcher.
Bye now.
What'd he say?
Not to stick my nose where it might get bitten off.
Hey, he's got a point. Maybe this didn't have anything to do with Ray's job at all. Maybe last night wasn't the first night Ray was expecting a late-night visitor. Ellie said she could sleep through the second coming. Jealous husbands can shoot straight, too.
You heard rumors about Ray?
Not a thing. Just, you never know. Maybe it'd be better for Ellie and her kids if no one ever did. Isn't today you're going to town day, when they lay out the new shipment at the Pick and Wear?
Just pick through the bins. The prices are on... Oh, Bonnie, I guess I don't have to tell you.
Hello, Moira. Any new school clothes for 6-year-old girls?
Over there.
They're giving you more hours these days.
Not really. You just never used to come in here to notice.
Yeah, I've been coming here for years.
Just once in a while for fun. Not like since you quit the credit union.
Quit's an interesting way of putting it.
Isn't it terrible about poor Ray Fletcher?
I thought you never had much use for people who go around enforcing the law, especially fish and game laws.
Oh, I'll call anybody names when I'm floating a little rum. But to think of somebody getting murdered... And his widow and those poor kids. I'm trying to organize some of the girls to bake meatloaves and cakes and craft dinners so Ellie won't have to cook for the next few days. Maybe you can come up with a casserole or something, would you? And her kids will be needing winter coats and boots and mitts and I don't know how to...
Damn.
Lose something, Bonnie?
Oh, hi, Laughlin. It's just this stupid excuse for a supermarket. Last week this shelf was tomato juice. Now it's 3 different brands of clamato juice.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but when you gotta do your groceries at the no-frills, you gotta grin and bear it. You see a shelf with something you're gonna want that ain't perishable, take out a bank loan and get it while you can.
Day off?
No, I got promoted back to night bartender.
Oh, that's why you look like hell.
Thank you.
I'm surprised you're even up and around. With Moira and the twins loading up the table at last call, you must have been there till 3.
No, Moira wasn't there. Just the twins. They were bad enough.
Moira wasn't there?
Must have broke her leg again or something. That's the last time I can remember the twins going on a toot without her.
Since when do the O'Neill twins have a night at the tavern without asking their mother along?
Everybody's got to grow up someday. Floyd, that rooster knows how long your chain is. He's just teasing you.
And since when does Moira O'Neill take up collections for conservation officers' families?
Maybe she feels guilty for cursing them out all these years.
Moira dotes on those boys. It's always been the 3 of them against the world.
Look out. Doting's one thing, murder's another. Even if Ray Fletcher did catch the twins jacking deer, the worst that had happened to them is a fine and getting their guns and vehicle confiscated.
From what Corporal Kowalchuk said, a lot of poachers think that's worth killing for.
At the scene, when everybody's hot-headed and got guns in their hands. They don't sneak over to the game warden's house 2 nights later and shoot him through his kitchen window.
Somebody did.
Yeah, and from what Kowalchuk said, that somebody was some Jim Dandy crack shot. I don't remember Moira winning any trophies.
You don't have to enter competitions to be a good shot. Maybe Moira did a lot of hunting when she was young. We were still in elementary when Moira was a teenager, so how would we know what she and her friends got up to? Do you remember a few years ago, they had a dance or something? Not at the fire hall, because the walls were green. Moira was standing beside somebody, and someone she went to school with went by and made a joke about the dynamic duo.
I'm not going to argue with your jackdaw memory, Bonnie, but...
She was standing beside Linda Bootlick.
It was nice of you to think of me. I wasn't going to buy apples till the locals came ripe.
Oh, selfish, actually. They only had big bags, and I could only use half. And then it turns out Ben has to bring in a pie for the bake sale at the fire hall. And I thought, who makes better pastry than Linda Bootler?
Flattery will get you everywhere. You got a deal. There. Just set them down by the rail there. Like a beer?
Sure, please.
Gary always fills a cooler on the deck on hot days.
Gary still coaching hockey? Thanks.
Nah. Lost his temper once too often. Bad for his heart.
Ben always said Gary was a terror on the ice.
Sometimes. But he'd never drop his gloves with Ben.
I don't know. Ben said it was just lucky Gary was just that little bit older. They were hardly ever in the same league.
Lucky for Gary.
Lucky for both of them. And us.
Some days.
Funny how two groups of kids just a few years apart and living practically next door can grow up in completely different worlds. Like two different generations.
Not that different.
Sometimes. I remember someone a few years ago making you laugh your head off when he said something about the dynamic duo. And I didn't have a clue what the joke was. Still don't.
Oh, that was me and Moira O'Neill. Fat Man and Dobbin.
Dobbin?
Kids. Me and Moira thought it was hilarious.
You hung around with Moira?
Couldn't pry us apart with a crowbar. We had some crazy good times. Until that bastard knocked her up and skipped.
By the time Ben and I hit high school, there was the Beatles and all that, but I don't have a clue what you guys did for your good times. Did you do a lot of getting out to hunting camps and stuff?
Not hardly. We wanted to be city girls, or what we thought were city girls. Rebel Without a Cause and Blackboard Jungle. You know.
By the time I saw them, they were just late-night TV.
They was hot times at the drive-in does. Rat-tail combs and leather skirts, and boy, weren't you something if your boyfriend had a switchblade his big brother smuggled back from the States or overseas. Me and Maura even tried to make zip guns.
Zip guns?
Yeah, well, we called them zip guns. You remember how in the Rumble movies, the guys who weren't big enough to pound somebody would bring their zip guns to a gang fight?
Kind of vaguely.
Made out of a piece of pipe and a cartridge and a spring. Well, that's the idea anyways. The closest we could come was to dig up a couple of old broke-down one-shot 22s and saw them down to fit in our purses. Some cool, some stupid. And some lucky I was. See, I finally figured out I could go to jail if a cop looked in my purse. So I chucked my zip gun in the old quarry pond up on Merton's Road. Wouldn't you know it? A week later, we get pulled over by the Mounties. Caught us for beers in the car, but could have been a lot worse.
So Moira chucked hers too?
No, I don't know. But she didn't have it on her. I was too young to do anything but on the spur of the moment. Just got scared and went, I'll chuck it in the pond. But it must have been a dumb lucky spur, because no one's found it after 30 years.
Did you tell Moira you chucked yours in the pond?
Oh, I guess so. We told each other everything. You're awful curious about what Moira did or didn't do.
Oh, you know me. Curious about everything. Oh, geez. Melissa's going to be home from school, and Ben wanted to work out back with the chainsaw. Thanks for the beer. It didn't have to be some Jim Dandy crack shot. Ray was expecting Moira. Instead of coming to the door, she came to the window and whispered. He leaned across the sink to peer out the screen, and all she had to do was swing up a sawed-off 22 and pull the trigger from 2 feet away.
But can't the cops figure that out without you putting your oar in? From old trajectory and impact and all that?
Probably not with a dum-dum bullet, eh? It just mashes like a pancake, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But there's something else to think of. Why would Ray Fletcher be expecting Moira to come around after the wife and kids were put to bed?
Because she phoned and said she wanted to talk to him in private about whatever he'd caught the twins doing 2 nights ago.
Oh, maybe. Or maybe it wasn't the first time she'd slipped up for a visit. Moira's still a good-looking woman.
Is she now?
Some fellas say that. When I said it could have been a jealous husband, it could just as easy have been a scorned lover. You want to be the one responsible for having Ellie and her kids know that?
Do I want to be responsible for the person who blew a hole in Ray Fletcher's head getting away with it?
Why do we still have to weed the asparagus when it's gone off burning?
Well, if we don't, the little asparagus is trying to grow next year will get choked out. Asparagus?
I got one, Mommy.
You sure did. Taproot and all.
You friggin' bitch! What did you do to our mother?
Melissa, go down back and get your father.
Sticking your nose into other people's business.
Take it easy, Mom. Yeah, Mom.
You think you're pretty cute, don't you?
Not particularly.
Lady, I don't know what you did, but you better stop doing
What
it.
do you mean, sneaking around to my friends asking questions?
I don't know of any law against dropping by a neighbor's for tea.
You think we're stupid? I brought you a nice bag of apples. Oh, by the way, didn't you used to hang out with Moira O'Neill? You'd better keep your nose to yourself, or you'll wish you...
Well, Moira, guess these must be your boys. We haven't met. Melissa, be a good girl and go tell Floyd you're not going to eat us.
This is between me and Bonnie, Ben. It's none of your business.
Well, that's kind of strange. Somebody standing on my lawn telling me what's none of my business. I must be getting forgetful. I don't remember Bonnie telling me she invited the O'Neills for tea.
I didn't.
Well, then I don't know what you boys are doing on my property. If your mother has something to say to my wife, that's one thing. But you boys go back to the other side of my property line and wait. Just up on the road there. I'll be fine.
Like hell.
I'm going to sit on that stump over there. And if your mother wants to take a run at my wife, that's her lookout. But you boys go along now.
Come on, Fergus. That's Big Ben Marsden. So? He doesn't look that big to me. So don't bet on it. If he doesn't wrap our heads around the fence post, his friends will. Come on. We'll just be up on the road, Mom. We can see you from there. Just up on the road.
Melissa, come and sit on a stump with Daddy.
Bye, Floyd.
Bonnie, if you go around stirring up old rumors, you're just going to get the wrong end of the stick every time.
Ray Fletcher caught your son's jackandeer, didn't he?
What if he did? The boys were just doing what they had to survive, just like everybody's doing these days.
Oh, sure. Like they need Trans Ams and new ATVs to survive.
You think you know something about it? You don't have a friggin' clue. Yeah, Fletcher caught Fergus and Shane all right, but he didn't press charges, did he? He made them a deal. You know how cops can twist things around so it sounds like they're doing you a favor. He told Fergus and Shane he'd let them off if they turned informer on the people they were selling to in Halifax. Those people in Halifax, they're into a lot more than just fencing for poachers. Anybody informs on them gets found floating in the harbor. That's what was going to happen to Fergus and Shane as soon as Fletcher got his case together. What would you do if it was your kids?
Tell that to Ellie Fletcher and her kids. Anyway, there's nothing anybody can do about it now. There's an RCMP diver on his way to the quarry. Might be in there now.
Well, he's not going to find anything. Boy, are you going to look stupid.
I was just jerking your chain. The way I hear it, Ray Fletcher was on the take and got too greedy.
Oh, I'm getting too old for this.
Never. If your mother wants to take a run at my wife...
Well, I wouldn't try it.
I thought you would want to know, Mrs. Marsden, that the diver did find a sawn-off bolt-action 22 in the quarry pond.
He did?
Mm-hmm. Or the remnants of one. So thick with rust it must have been in there 20 or 30 years.
Oh.
Also, he found another one that had been tossed in very recently. I wouldn't be surprised if Moira O'Neill pleads guilty to prevent any misapprehension that her sons were accessories. The next time, Mrs. Marsden, that I start imagining professional hitmen roaming the hills of Membertou County, I'll think of you. Bye now.
Are you still awake?
No.
I shouldn't have lied to Linda Bootlair.
Well, if you hadn't, Kowalczyk could still be looking under the mattress for Carlos the Jackal. And I'd still be thinking Ray Fletcher'd been slipping around. Now, can you go to sleep?
I wonder what I would have done. Or what you would have done. If it had been our boys instead of Moira's.
It wouldn't happen. Everybody fudges the law a bit.
They do?
Especially these days. But poaching big time and getting tied in with gangsters, well, that's just mean stupid.
What did Moira's son mean about if he doesn't wrap our heads around a fence post, his friends will?
Oh, I don't know. Guess he just figures us middle-aged guys all look out for each other.
What did Corporal Kowalczyk mean by your husband would hear more about neighborhood poachers than I would?
I don't know. How am I supposed to know what people got in their heads when they say something? People think all sorts of things.
Are you awake now?
Yes. Satisfied?
Not quite. I always kind of had a hankering after Clint Eastwood.
What? Oh, foolishness.
I'll show you foolishness.
Been listening to Deer in the Headlights by Alf Silver, Episode 3 of Clean Sweep. Bonnie and Ben Marsden were played by Deborah Allen and Richard Donat. The others in the cast were Michael Pellerin as Corporal Kowalczyk, Joanne Miller as Ellie, Ashley Swain as Melissa, Carol Goodman as Moira, Linda Busby as Linda, Peter Connors as Lachlan, and the twins Fergus and Shane were played by Troy Adams. The music was composed by Scott McMillan and David McIsaac, and was performed by Gordon Stovey, Jamie Gaddy, and Andre Lacroix, along with the two composers. The recording engineer was Pat Martin. Sound effects, Dermot Kenny. The associate producer was Peggy Hansworth. Casting was by John Dunsworth and Alex Duncan. Our coordinating producer is Barry Morgan. Clean Sweep was produced and directed in Halifax by Bill Howell, the executive producer of the Mystery Project.